Hi friends, welcome back. Today we're talking about finding the arc length of a circle. So the outer perimeter is called the circumference, and we're going to be looking at finding a part of that circumference. What I want you to write down are these two notes. Your circumference formula is equals the diameter times pi. I remember it as cherry, C, is delicious pi. And then this guy right here, part over whole equals degree over 360. That's going to help you figure out the part of your circumference that you're looking for. So once you have those written down, let's take a look at our first one here. So what we have right now is let me use my blue one. All right, so what we want to find first is our circumference. Remember, our circumference is the diameter times pi, and our diameter is just 2 times the radius. So we have 14 for our radius here, so our diameter is 28. So our total circumference is 28 pi. Now, you can use your pi button to multiply. Don't use 3.14. Use your pi button because it's like 3.1415 and it goes on. Your pi button is more accurate. If you don't have a pi button, you can do 22 divided by 7, but I would highly recommend using your pi button. Now, leaving things in terms of pi is a much more accurate answer, and that would be considered an exact answer, and that's what we're going to do today. So this is our total circumference. Once you found your total circumference, you're ready to find your arc length. So let's go ahead and do our setup, which is part over whole equals degrees over 360. So 135 over 360. Now, the part of the circumference we are looking for. So essentially what we're looking for is this highlighted part here. And now we know it's 135 degrees because we've learned about central angles. So we know that this guy right here, that's 135 degrees. But what we want is the actual dimensions, so the length of it. So that's what we're looking for. That's going to be our x. And our whole circumference is 28 pi. Okay, so now that we have this sorted out, what we want to do is, it's just a proportion. Fraction equals fraction, so we're going to cross multiply. But before you do that, because we're going to be keeping these as exact answers, reduce your fraction. So like 135, if I divide that by 5, I get 27. And if I do 360 divided by 5, I get 72. Okay, so divide this by 9 and I get 3. Divide this by 9 and I get 8. So really what I have is x over 28 pi equals 3 over 8. And that will help so that you don't have to reduce at the end. So let's go ahead and cross multiply. We're going to do 8 times x gives us 8x equals 28 times 3. Now, I could do the math, 28 times 3 pi, right? But if you take a look here, if I divide this side by 8, that gets that x by itself. Divide this side by 8. Okay, so if I divide this by 4, I get 2. Divide this by 4, I get 7. So x equals 7 times 3 gives me 21 pi over 2. So my exact answer is this portion right here is 21 pi over 2. So let's think about that. 21 over pi, that's going to be 10.5 pi, right? So this bit right here is 10.5 pi. Well, remember our whole circumference was 28 pi. So that seems about right. Half would be 14 pi, and that's this right here, and that's a little bit less than 14 pi, so you can kind of see how that works. You may want to leave it in fraction form just to give you the most accurate answer. All right, let's take a look at this one. We have 120 degrees here, and we want to find the arc length here. So same idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to find our circumference is the diameter times pi, and in this case our diameter is 12. It's double the radius, so circumference equals 12 pi. Now we're ready to do our setup, which is part over whole equals degrees over 360, and so for our degrees we have 120. Okay, and then our whole circumference is 12 pi. Now again, you want to reduce this fraction as much as possible. So let's lob off those zeros. And if I divide by 12, I get 1. Divide by 12, I get 3. So I'm looking for the parts. We'll call that x. X over 12 pi equals 1 over 3. Okay, so now we cross multiply. 3x equals 12 pi times 1, so 12 pi. Divide both sides by 3, and we get x equals 4 pi. So the part here that we need is 4 pi, and that makes sense. This is 4 pi because the whole thing is 12 pi, so that seems about reasonable. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Good, so in our previous problems, we were leaving it in terms of pi. Let's talk about now if you wanted to turn it into a decimal. So you're gonna do the same idea. We're gonna find our circumference. So cherry is delicious pie. Our circumference is the diameter, which is, in this case, 6 yards. Double it, we get 12, which was just like our last one, 12 pi. Okay, and so now that we have that, we are ready to do our setup here, which is part over whole equals degrees over 360. Now the degrees that we're doing, again, you want to be real careful here, is we're doing this whole outer bit here. So almost the whole circle. That's 285 degrees. 285. Now, if you're doing, yeah, let's do 285, and if we reduce that, we get 57, and then 360 divided by 5, we get 72. Now, 7 plus 5 is 12, and 3 goes into 12, so 3 is also going to go into this. So if we do 57 divided by 3, we get 19. 72 divided by 3 gives us 24. All right, so we have, and then our whole circumference, remember, was 12 pi. So to rewrite this, we have x over 12 pi equals 19 over 24. Okay, so now what we're going to do is cross multiply. We get 24x equals 19 times 12 pi. Divide both sides by 24. And we get x equals, now I could have multiplied 19 times 12 before, but I left it like this because if we just do 12 and 24, divide this by 12, we get 1, divide this by 12, we get 2. So we end up with 19 pi divided by 2, or approximately, and use your, so we say 19, and then we use our pi button, so I have to do shift and then pi on mine, 19 pi, hit equals, and then divide that by 2. Divided by 2 gives me 29.85. So this is 29.85 yards, just yards. And in fact, in the other ones, I don't know that I put the units, so my apologies on that, but make sure that you put your units. All of these are just yards or feet or centimeters. It's not squared because we're not finding the area. We're just finding the length of one particular arc. So that would be the exact answer, and then that is rounding it using your pi button. All right, let's take a look at, actually, let's do this guy right here. So we have 18, our radius is 18 yards, and our theta, or our angle, is 225. So let's find our circumference. Cherry is delicious pie. If it's 18 yards, if we take 18 and we double that, we end up with 36. So our circumference is 36 pi. And now we're ready to do our setup. Okay, so we've got, this is 360 and 225, and then this is 36 pi. Let's go ahead and reduce that guy. So if we do divided by 5, we can get 45. And then 360 divided by 5 is 72. Yeah, 72. 72. Both of those are divisible by 9, because if you add 4 plus 5, you get 9. 7 plus 2, you get 9. That means they're both divisible by 9. So divide by 9, we get 5. Divide by 9, we get 8. All right, so what we have now is x over 360 pi equals 5 over 8. So if we get 8x equals 3 times 5 times pi, right? So this times this. So if we've got this guy, let me scooch this over a little bit. Okay, so now what we can do is divide both sides by 8. And we say x equals, we can cross cancel. Divide this, cut that guy in half, we get 4. If we cut this in half, we get 15 and 3, that's 18. And we can cut it in half again. We do 2 and 9. So we end up upstairs, we end up with 9 times 5, so that's 45, over 2 times pi. So 45 over 2, that's a nice easy number, 45 divided by 2. You should leave it as a fraction, but you can also do x equals 22.5 times pi. And the reason I say that is because now when we go to enter our pi button, it's a little bit easier. So approximately, we would say 22.5, and then we would multiply that by shift pi, and we get this, 70.69. So approximately 70.69, and go back and look, our unit is yards, so approximately 70.69 yards. So make sure to put your units on there. So again, this is our exact answer. This is our estimated answer. Hopefully that helps, and we'll see you next time.